Hello class, this will be a review of lesson 2-1. The objectives for this lesson are to add real numbers using models and rules and to apply addition. Please complete the check skills you'll need found at the top of page 56, questions 1 through 12. You may need more space than is provided in your notebook. You may use notebook paper or any other paper to complete this. We're now ready to continue with the vocabulary. Please complete your notes as I move along through the notebook. You may pause this video at any time and rewind it if you miss something. The first property is the identity property of addition. The identity property of addition tells us that if we add 0 to any number, we are left with that number. You can see in the examples, -5 plus 0 is going to leave us with -5, and 0 plus 5 will leave us with 5. The inverse property of addition tells us that if we add a number and its opposite, the result will be 0. The two examples are 17 plus -17 will result in 0, and the same with -17 plus 17 is 0. Adding numbers with the same sign. To add numbers with the same sign, add their absolute values. The sum has the same signs as the addends. Let's look at the two examples. We have 2 plus 6. They're both positive. So we add the 2 plus 6 and we get 8. And since they're both positive, our result is 8, or if you want to put a little plus sign there to remind you, it is a positive 8. In the second example, we have a -2 plus a -6. So we add their absolute values of -2 and -6, which is 2 and 6. The result is 8. And then we must add the negative sign to that, as we have -2 plus -6. Continuing on with adding numbers with different signs. The rule is to add numbers with different signs. We find the difference of their absolute values. The sum has the same sign as the addend with a greater absolute value. This is the most confusing rule of adding integers, and so we want to make sure we pay close attention to this problem. We have -2 plus 6. The rule tells us we find the difference between 2 and 6, which is 4. And then since the 6 is the larger and has a sign of a positive, our answer is positive 4. In the second problem, we have 2 plus -6. Again, since the signs are negative and positive, we have to subtract 2 and 6, which is 4, and we take the negative sign here because the 6, which is negative, is larger than the 2. Note, there's cards. If you would like a copy of the addition rule cards, please ask in class on the following day. The two key vocabulary terms here are the additive inverse, which is the opposite of a number, and then the sum of the additive inverse, remember, is always 0. Two terms we'll talk about in the next example are matrix and an element. A matrix is just a rectangular arrangement of numbers and rows and columns, and then an element is the item inside the matrix. Here we're using the number line to model the addition properties of integers. Our first is 3 plus -5. Note we start at the 3 and we move to the left 5 units. Our result is -2, which is our answer. So again, we start at 3 and we move 5 units to the left because our 5 is negative. The result is the -2. In our second example, we start at the -3 here, and we're going to move to the right 5 units. So we start at -3, and we move 5 units to the right, with our result being 2. The second example, adding numbers. We're going to take 12 plus -23. Our rule from the first page tells us that if the signs are different, we're going to subtract the 23 and the 12, which is a result of 11. And then we take the sign of the larger number, in this case is the 23. So our result is -11. The solution, 12 plus -23, results in a -11. In our second B example, we have two signs that are the same. And so in this case, we're going to add 6.4 and 8.6. That result is 13, if I did my math correct. Excuse me, it's not. Excuse me, our result is 15. Since we're taking 8, which is almost 9, and 6, the result is going to be 15. Now, the sign is negative because both of the signs of our numbers are negative. Our second example here, our third example in evaluating expressions, we're looking at a scuba diver who is 88 feet below sea level, and he begins to surface. So we are going to think about his starting value of -88. That represents the 88 feet he is below sea level. We're then going to add the amount of feet he rises as he starts his ascent. So we have -88 plus x. That will allow us to find the new depth. So now we can substitute 37 feet in for the x in our expression. The result will then be -88 plus 37. Since the numbers are different, the signs are different, we subtract 88 minus 37. The result is 51. And we'll take the sign of the larger number, which is negative. Our final example is adding matrices. Matrices may look a little funny, but they're pretty easy to solve. Notice here we have a 3 by 2 matrix and a 3 by 2 matrix. It's important when you're adding matrices to add matrices of the same size. We then add the corresponding elements, which means if you have a number in the first block of the first matrices, the -6, we're going to add that to the number in the first position of the second matrices, which is 7. So we take -6 plus 7. -6 plus 7 results in a +1, which is then placed in the first position of your final matrices here. We then go on to 8.6, which is the second number in the top row, and we're going to add to that, because we're adding the two matrices, the -5.4. the result is going to be a positive number, and it's going to be, the result is a positive 3.2, because 8.6 minus 5.4 is 3.2, and that is positive because the 8.6 is the larger of the two numbers. We're then in our third number in the top row of our first matrices is 11, and we're going to add to that a negative 2. 11 minus 2 is 9, and the result is going to be positive because our 11 is the larger of the two numbers. Now we move to the second row. We have 2.3 plus 11.1. 2.3 plus 11.1, since the signs are the same, we add the numbers, which will give us 13.4. And the sign is positive, which is understood because both signs are positive. Our middle term in the second row is 5 and 3, and their result when adding together is 8. And then the last number in the second row of our matrices is negative 3, and we're going to add to that negative 1. In this case, both signs are negative, which are the same, so we add our numbers, which is 3 plus 1, and we get 4. Our sign is going to be negative because both terms are negative. I hope you've enjoyed this flipped classroom. Please make sure you have your notes completed for class for the following day. If you have any questions, prepare them for the beginning of class, and we'll look forward to practicing what we've learned in class tomorrow. Again, email me or be prepared to ask questions at the beginning of class tomorrow. Hope you have a great night.